The latest escalation of the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians has entered its second week. There is growing international pressure for a ceasefire, but the US has blocked a UN Security Council statement for the third time in a week. The US Secretary of State has not joined calls for an immediate end to the violence. In a moment, Deborah Haynes' report from Israel, but first, here's what Anthony Blinken had to say.
The United States remains greatly concerned by the violence, by the escalating violence. Hundreds of people killed or injured, including children being pulled from the rubble. Palestinians and Israelis, like people everywhere, have the right to live in safety and security. This is not an Israeli privilege or a Palestinian privilege. It's a human right. And the current violence has ripped it away. So we've been working intensively behind the scenes to try to bring an end to the conflict.
It is obviously an increasingly awkward position to maintain as the civilian death toll in Gaza increases day by day. But the Americans are in a difficult position because, well, the Israeli argument as to why they're doing this is because they regard Hamas as a terrorist organization and their country is under an unprecedented level of rocket fire. And if you remember back in 2001, September the 11th, when America was the target of a huge terrorist attack, they launched an invasion in Afghanistan. And so the argument that Israel has to justify their offensive is one that for America they are clearly sympathetic to. But we do know that diplomatic efforts are underway to try to bring both sides down from the brink, try to find that off-ramp. We've heard that countries like Russia, Egypt, Qatar, as well as the United Nations speaking to the Hamas side. Obviously, you've got a US envoy in the region too, speaking to the Palestinians and to the Israelis. They don't have direct conversations with Hamas, of course. And I had this interesting conversation with an academic, an analyst, a senior, very learned individual who's watched this crisis over decades, and he seemed to think that in order for a ceasefire to happen, both sides need to be able to show their people that this suffering was worth it. And for the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who over the last 2 years has failed to win an outright re-election and is actually just a caretaker Prime Minister right now, he will want to emerge the strong man, the man that has defended his country. And for Hamas, they will want to look as though they are the true defenders of the Palestinians. They are the ones that are defending Jerusalem, such a symbolic city, at a time where there's political crisis for the Palestinians too, with the Palestinian president again delaying elections there. So both sides will want to have some kind of victory in order to justify an end to this. And until that happens, you can expect the strikes, the bombardments to continue.